So today I'm going to be comparing my Canon AE-1 to my Nikon N90. So the Canon I got on Amazon used and it had no visible damage and seems to be working perfectly, so I recommend checking out the Canon cameras on there. And then my Nikon N90 my grandpa actually gave to me. So I would like to point out that I am brand new to film photography and just photography in general. So these are just going to be things that I have personally noticed while trying to shoot photos. So, my terminology might be off a little bit. Don't quote me on anything. I'm just here to share my experience with both cameras and what I thought was best for me. So one of the most obvious differences is that the Canon is smaller than the Nikon. It is more lightweight and the Nikon is pretty heavy, but obviously these are film cameras, so they are going to be way heavier than normal digital cameras. So both of my cameras have a 50mm lens on them right now. The Canon is a more manual camera and the Nikon has more user-friendly features and does a lot more things on its own. So for example, the Canon camera, you set all your settings, the shutter speed and your ASA, which is the same thing as ISO. They have just changed the name over time. So you manually select your shutter speed and ASA with this knob right here. I did find setting the ASA on the Canon a lot harder. I almost felt as if I was going to break the camera because you have to pop this little piece up to get that little piece to spin. So that was a little bit difficult and it did take me some time and watching lots of YouTube videos to figure out how to actually change that when I first got the camera. So the Nikon kind of makes it easier to set all your settings. So this one's more user-friendly, I think, because it has this screen right here. You can actually turn on the light to see it a little bit better. So it has this screen, so if you want to set the ISO, you can literally just press the button and spin this knob to change the ISO to whatever it needs to be. It has the electronic version of how many photos you have taken, your battery, and what mode your camera is set on at the current time. So I love that. I think it's a lot easier for switching settings, having the button and having that screen to really know what's going on. The next thing that I want to point out with these cameras is that the Nikon will auto advance the film. So every time I take a photo, it will automatically go to the next film available. Whereas with the Canon, you use this little lever to hand crank and swap to your next photo. The next difference that I would like to point out is seeing what type of film you have in your camera. So for the Canon, to remember what type of film you have in your camera, there is this little slot on the back where you rip off the film box and put it in here so you can remember every time you're shooting what you were shooting with. So right now I have the Portrait 800 in this camera. And then on the Nikon, there is not a spot for you to put the film type, but there is this little window that will show you your actual film roll. So you can see here I have the Kodak 200 and this one right now. What I love about the Nikon is that it has an autofocus feature. So when I'm taking a photo, it will automatically focus on my subject and I just have to worry about lining the shot up exactly how I want it. I really love that setting. It makes it a lot easier to get pictures of moving things. The Canon, you just have to autofocus with the lens, which I like because it forces you to slow down and really find that sweet spot and the perfect focus. But the Nikon does make it a lot easier because it takes that step out. With the Canon, when it comes to rewinding, you are doing this manually. So you push this button on the bottom right here, lift this lever, and it has a little handle for you, and then you are just going to twist this around until your number goes back to S. When it comes to rewinding on the Nikon, it is a lot simpler. So you're just going to hold this rewind button right here and this one at the same time, and it will count back all the way to empty and then you are done. You just pop this open and pull your film out. So I love that it automatically rewinds. It took me about 30 seconds to do my first roll of film on here, so that is super nice. If a photo is too dark on the Canon, it will have a red flashing light at the bottom of the screen and it won't allow you to take the photo. On the Nikon, there is a little lightning bolt symbol that will appear at your bottom of your screen, and that's to remind you that you would need a flash if you want to take the photo in that type of lighting. So I do like how it has that. So they're both kind of the same when it comes to reminding you that a photo might be too dark where you are currently at. The Canon takes this super tiny battery. It actually took me a while to find it in Walgreens. So it takes this little guy right here. Maybe it will be easier to find online, but this battery was definitely difficult to find. And then the Nikon, I'm not gonna open it up, but in the bottom it takes, I believe, AA batteries, and you just twist it and put them in there. I believe it takes 4, so that is a lot easier to come by. So overall right now, I am favoriting the Nikon just because I think it is more user-friendly and it does a lot of the features kind of automatically or on its own. So it has been super helpful for me as a beginner to really kind of get the basics down of film. But I love with the Canon that it really forces you to learn and take your time and focus in on what you're doing. So I think I'm gonna have a lot of fun with both of these.